Welcome to Tech at Lunch, the podcast that satisfies your hunger for all things tech while you enjoy your midday meal. So grab your sandwich, tune in, and let's dig in. All right. Hey, y'all. I'm Nick.
Hey, I'm John.
Hello, I'm Ed.
And, this week we're going to kind of, jump back in the saddle a little bit. We took a week off. But, I really think, this week, it's kind of standing out a little bit more and more, seeing it from we were at Rapid, and then kind of seeing more stuff pop up on the interwebs and YouTube and other things. A lot of people are really starting to worry about the risks. There's cybersecurity risks when it comes down to 3D printing. And a lot of this deals with, and the reason why we're seeing a lot of this upkick, is a lot of printers are either A, connected to your network, or B, they're connected to the cloud environment. And if you buy these printers, you don't know how to secure your environment, then we're kind of, I guess you could say, up the creek. However, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of go through a kind of a series here. This is the first part of this series of cybersecurity and 3D printing series, and we're going to talk about the risks. Next week, we'll get into how do I secure my network, against some of these things. And then what we can do is we can even go on through another series where we kind of talk about, how do I make a off-network 3D printing solution that kind of, gets things through the process if I want to make my own combined network, like using VLAN and stuff like that.
Closed network solution.
Closed network solutions using VLANs, guest networks, that type of stuff. Stuff to keep it off your own network.
Yeah. If you don't, I've been kind of holding it in, but I think we have a good starting point on it.
It was, if we just cover the risks.
Yeah.
And risks right now are your biggest animal. And I don't know what it is. Just something, I guess you can say, in, the lower food digestion region, kind of gets me that says, we're going in a bad direction. We're going in a very unsafe way, because you got all these guys that are cloud this, cloud that. You can't run your printer without being on the cloud. Yeah. Hello, Bamboo Labs.
Well, let me take a second and ask that same question to Ed. Like, why do you think that? First off, do you think that the cybersecurity and 3D printing is going in a bad direction? Because Nick is saying it's not headed, in the right way. So how do you feel about it, first off?
Well, I would say generally the problem anytime we introduce new technology, we're more concerned with, using it than we are about, the mechanics behind it. So in that aspect, yes, we probably are, going in it blind. The main three things with anything in cybersecurity is CIA. So confidentiality, integrity, and accessibility. So the problem with those three things have three unique issues, and most people do not understand those three concepts. And that's why I would say most consumers are not going to be savvy enough to make the correct settings or be savvy enough to understand, hey, I need to do this opposed to that. And that's probably the biggest problem.
Yeah. Honestly, I agree, because I think in both your cases you said it kind of differently. Nick, you're saying that, it's going in the wrong direction because we're trying to incorporate more, I guess I would say, like, inclusivity of, remote connections, cloud-based things like that. And then you're saying that we're so eager, Ed, to use the 3D printer and to get it connected that we don't care about the security. I think it's a little bit of both, to be honest with you. Is that the additive manufacturing and 3D printing specifically, FDM, SLS, any type of, big industrial printing with, not CNC machines, I'm sorry, the electron beam laser, any of the fusion, anything like that. The biggest thing is it's in a production environment, and production kind of lives on uptime. Like, if you're producing at every single second you can, then you're making money every single second you can.
Makes sense.
So I agree that it's a little bit of both. We're going in blind because we want to use it too quick. We're going in, to connect to your cloud. When are we like even thinking about our entry points? Like we're talking about the focus of the thing, risk.
Mm-hmm.
When I think risk, what are the entry points into your network? What are the vulnerabilities? How can I spoof whatever, trick your network into thinking that I'm a device on there? And how do I get access to your network, and which in turn gets your personal information? So for me, if you do not protect that printer, I can make your printer react like a computer asking for data, react like your Amazon Echo asking you for your location. Like, there's a whole bunch of dangerous and kind of scary stuff.
Once you're inside the printer and you have a control of the network card,
yeah,
you can see everything on that person's network, and you can hop from point to point until you kind of find the device you're looking for.
So your computer that you've been trying to protect, your database that you have running internally on your system, you connected your printer, and it's vulnerable, or it's vulnerable, and now your computer
it's
is
like
vulnerable.
A lot of the guys, for example, like Prusa Research and some of the older enders, they really don't have network connectivity. Me and Ed watched a review on the new Prusa Mark IV. The new Prusa Mark IV, they're only having a 6 megabit transmission speed between its network card and the PC that was 3 inches away from it. So
I don't know if I like that.
Well, here's the thing about that, though.
It only took 4 minutes.
It only took 4 minutes to transmit a file.
To send the file.
32 megabytes. 32 megabytes.
To send a Benchy. But
it's a start.
The thing is what that means is, hey, it's for short range communication. It's not. It's for somebody who is inside the same room, so it is internal communication to that building only.
Yeah.
However, still, most people do remove the network cards. But I think when you're taking a printer, normally I hate to bash on Bamboo Labs. To be honest with you, I really do. But you're taking a printer, you're turning it into part of your network. Because I have to be connected to my to the cloud for this printer to even work.
Yeah. I mean,
I love the aesthetics of the printer. Don't get me wrong. The aesthetics of the printer, the ability for it to do multi-material unit right outside the box, great. Yeah. But you telling me that the only way I can use you is just to hook you up to the cloud?
Yeah, I'm just saying. How close are we to getting your printer? Yeah. You going to the store, you're buying a printer router combo pack instead of most.
So let's, like I said, we go back to what I said, the principle of CIA. The confidentiality part is your IP.
Yep.
So your intellectual property is being exposed. So say companies that are printing on a mass scale or printing farms, if you're printing something, somebody could make a bootleg of that product or make defective parts and affect your brand. Right. The integrity part of that is NYU did a study and said that there are ways to do things on a sub-miniature level that wouldn't show up in the strength of a product in the beginning, but over time it would fail. These are things that you cannot detect. Right now, there is no way to detect this with the technology we have. There are things you can do layer-wise that can be done that is not visual or visible to the eye that you can't account for. And then when we get to availability, if I do some type of denial of service attack and I got a printing farm, then that uptime is down. So I'm losing money. Right. So like I said, these are some of the things that you have to keep in mind as far as risk.
Yeah. And, I think, also most of the time your risk all goes back on the person using it and the availability of them to your network. But then again, that goes into the fact that most of these printers should be off-networked anyways. Or, if you're going to do that, we'll talk about this later in a different episode, as, VLANing that only printer on its own VLAN to communicate to the outside world and back again. You only have one PC on that VLAN, you only have one printer on that VLAN, you only have the outside world on that VLAN, to keep it to itself so it can't harm anything inside your own network. You don't have to communicate with anything else. However, that's down the road. I think, we're getting down the proverbial rabbit hole with that one.
Yeah, it's not just a plug and play. You just download this. and go through this configurator. It's a lot of work.
Right. And the thing is then you start getting into, what is the risk of me having my printer on the cloud? Then you start dealing with cloud solution issues of if, for example, that cloud provider gets hacked, or gets infiltrated for some strange reason, now all your IP is gone.
Yeah, you're relying on somebody else's security in that case.
Even if it's just even though it's G-code files, you can only print the G-code file on that printer. However, if you have one certain printer or one type of printer on one cloud environment, then they already know what printer to use. They already know how to get your stuff. So it's.
I don't think spoofing the printer and making it think it's a different one's not going to hurt either. It's going to take your print. So,
well, just to add a little bit of data to that. So about 38% to 40% of advanced manufacturers have had a cybersecurity incident, and about 25% of that have had at least a $1 million loss. Advanced additive manufacturers, not hobbyists.
Yeah,
big names. It's too easy.
The risk if advanced manufacturers are having these issues.
Yeah.
Imagine what a hobbyist will encounter in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about there was a big time where what is it? Identity theft and fraud and all that thing is huge. I mean, it started. What was the first one of the first email things was the Nigerian prince you're sending money to.
Yeah.
Everything is a certain way to get a little bit of cash out of maybe a difficult source, right? And hacking into your network is just another way to get to your personal information, which in the end can get to any bit of your digital wealth that you have. If they know how to access your private personal information, they can be you for all intents and purposes.
But there could be also that Nigerian prince out there who's been trying to give away his money for the last 30 years.
Yeah, he's just sitting in an apartment with all his money.
Here's another scary aspect that's a big risk. Is the medical industry is now doing even more things with 3D printing.
Oh, yeah.
So now you're talking about personal data that's being tied.
Implants.
So I mean, we're not trying to be a scare anybody. We're just trying to inform people that the risks are real.
You got HIPAA issues at that point.
Yeah, and it's the thing. It's like if this is the bleeding edge of tech of an industry, and it's combining two industries, medical and additive manufacturing, and you get to a certain point where you have to ask the ethical questions, not just can I do it? Okay, we know you can do it. We've seen it done. You've practiced it. Should you do it? Is a different question, and if you have everybody's data, maybe it's in your best interest to take a second.
That one question right there, that one statement right there, leads me to a point of where that is a question that next year at Rapid we're going to bring up.
Yeah,
I think when we talk to some of these guys who are doing, and this is a question that needs to be asked. If you're going to buy a 3D printer for a medical environment, this is what it should be asked. Is your printer certified by HIPAA? Are you protecting the data that's being transferred through this device? I understand it's only a print. I get it. You're only printing dental crowns. I get it. However, that still goes back. That dental crown still goes back to an individual.
That's what I'm saying. So it's not just the print.
Right.
Data is laced with that print.
Right.
The thing that some of the things they're doing, and we're not going to get in detail, they are looking at digital rights management with some of the files that are being used on the PCs. They are looking at encryption.
Right.
They are looking at, like you said, barriers between the additive manufacturing equipment. I mean, but that's not what we're going to get into today. But there are techniques that are being used.
And it's like, if you think about it, another risk that you get when you start talking about, some of these, I guess you'd say print farmers, you start dealing with, especially if it's coming over via USB stick. USB sticks can be corrupted, implanted, whatever the hell, comes across the board, right? However, if you start using secured thumb drives inside your environment, you just now take that risk away. You know what's on your thumb drive. You have the password to it. You control its access. It's
something you have and something you are.
Right. And the thing is, if it's constantly on you at all times, you can't. There's no way that it can be, spoofed at that point, especially if it's encrypted. These printers can handle encryption. You just got to unencrypt it with a passcode.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, not to get into the solutions, but
Right.
iPhone, people have their opinions about iPhone and Android.
Yeah.
And I was for a long time an Android person. But the beauty of the iPhone is it can do facial recognition. Why can't my printer, if I'm using some type of camera system to monitor that system, do facial recognition? And if I want to add a file or something, I can drop it. I can airdrop it from a device that's secure, and it has to be within a certain range of that device before I can airdrop it. So why couldn't we do those type of things?
Yeah.
And not to come up with solutions. Just, I mean, there are some things, simple things.
To kind of piggyback and I guess I wouldn't say answer the question because we're eventually going to need to come up with solutions for these things anyways. We're going to be spitballing eventually anyways, but that's not for here. But you get to the point and you bringing something up like why can't we add this piece to make it? Why can't we add this piece, software, hardware, whatever the case may be? I think that the reason we are in the certain state that we are now, maybe kind of teetering in the wrong direction, is because to get the printers in the hobbyist homes and to get more printers out there, we had to drive the price down, which means that we have no budget for security. We have no budget for, some of them come with a camera. I haven't seen very many that come with several cameras.
So what I mean camera, I don't mean that this is something that. So most people that nowadays, most millennials or most tech savvy people add a camera to their system because they want to monitor the print. I guess what I'm saying is why don't we add the application, or why don't we add here's a use case, or here's a white paper that Prusa or whoever that's involved, Enders or whatever. Hey, here's the best case. You can do this. We have this application already set up. We set up an API that's internal to here.
There you go. Yeah.
Internal to the system. We develop an API, and all you have to do is be within this range. We develop that API. Yeah. So it's
like a beacon.
So what I'm saying is it's not the consumers that maybe should drive the technology. It's the consumers that should push the boundaries to make them drive the technology.
Now, the one thing, like you mentioned, cost.
Yeah.
And again, we're talking about other stuff here. Cost and software development, yes, they ride on the same train. However, if you're already inside that dev train, why can't I say, hey, do me a favor, add where somebody can create or use a default passcode to unlock the USB port, or to unlock or mount the USB, or to mount all of that. It's a simple line of code. It's at least 2 lines of code, and that's it.
That's something I don't see enough of, is locking USBs.
Exactly. But the thing is people they follow the money train.
Yep.
Well, development takes money. 3 lines of code is not a lot of money.
But that's why you drive open source.
Right. Exactly. And the thing is there's another risk. Another risk is the open source environment. However, the open source environment is also what fixes 95% of these issues. So it's a double-edged sword. Because open source environment and open source itself is inherently risky. Because no one controls the code except for the outside world. And you don't know what could be implanted in there if you're not used to doing security reviews and stuff like that. However, the people on those forums will be the ones that fix it.
That's what I was going to get at. Most of these open source, most of the credible open source platforms use GitHub or some type of agile platform that's having a review over this. So if someone was being mischievous, most of these guys are digging through the code. That's what they are. They're code rats.
Yeah.
So they're in there looking at these things. So yes, the poison apple is possible. But if nobody ever bites the poison apple to figure out what an antidote is for the poison apple, then you stuck with the same situation.
What Ed's saying is we're not going to eat the apple. We need 3 names of somebody that's going to eat the apple.
Prusa, Ender.
Somebody's got to do it.
And the thing is you have some of those communities out there that are just absolutely rocking it.
Yeah.
Hardcore rocking the cybersecurity world, open source world, doing great things. Making sure things are right when they come out. the Clipper environment guys, who are the dev team behind that, the Marlin guys, the guys behind Marlin.
And aren't those two open source?
Both of them are completely open source.
Yeah.
And how much malicious code have you come across since you put Clipper on your machine?
I've looked through the code base. I haven't seen much.
You've been in 3D printing well longer than we have. How much Marlin code you didn't come across that had some kind of malicious code in it that we know of?
None of it. Because if it was corrupted, I'd pull it and format it, and it's gone.
But the thing is, it shows that you have good people out there who are in this community. And, that kind of mitigate the risks. When you start talking major risk, you're talking about, hey, guess what dummy you did to yourself?
Oh, yeah.
You're talking, these guys at these major firms that are running your Stratasys machines, that are running some of your other bigger machines, and stuff like that. They go, oh, here, let me upload this file from this thumb drive that I found on the floor.
Well,
and you inject your own problem. Now you magically somehow got friggin', ransomware on a 3D printer, which honestly that'd be hilarious.
Yeah.
Unplug.
Yeah.
Unplug it. Just unplug it.
Here's what's hilarious to me.
It's a man in a box.
Yeah.
NASA's working with people that 3D print rockets, right? When was the last time one of those robots got attacked or had some malicious code put on?
One of the robots that make the relativity space.
Yeah, I mean, when was
probably when they belonged to an automotive manufacturer before then.
So what I'm getting at,
I'm going to be honest. They probably set up the internal network. I would say,
but
they did a great job of it too.
There is no system, and when I say no system, there is no system that can be air gapped on Earth. Not a one, zero. And if somebody tell you that, they're lying, because some idiot will do exactly what we just said with a USB stick, or some idiot will bring a phone in that's been compromised that'll attack the network from inside. There is no air gap system other than unplug it from the damn internet and no access to the internet. And guess what? It run on a floppy disk and only one floppy disk. And then still you got a problem, because it's probably some person that know how to reverse that. So the point is
I was wondering you get a floppy disk from.
Oh, you still get them,
bro.
Believe it or not, you can still buy them. That's the crazy part. But here's the thing with consumers, us. When we buy a car, there's a manual. The manual needs to include best practices when it comes to securing a network. If you are giving people access to Wi-Fi, network connections, it's the responsibility of the manufacturer of that piece of equipment to put a disclaimer in there.
Okay.
Every automotive manufacturer says, hey,
yeah,
blah, 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 blah. And I'm not saying it's their responsibility to do
they don't warn you,
but they should give you best practices. It's a start. That's not going to fix it.
No.
But as a start, to at least educate people against the risk.
Right.
Yeah, because I already think of like a couple issues. Because 3D printing in and of itself is, it's a bunch of hobbyists, a bunch of makers that are able to throw a bunch of parts together and connect it and get it running. So inherently, if you're not prepared to make a network, or maybe you don't know the IT side enough on that, you should do a little bit more research or ask a couple people, because you're only going to work in the opposite direction at the end of the day whenever your machine is bricked because you connected to something you shouldn't.
And if y'all need help with that, let us know.
Yeah.
We have no problem jumping in on that, giving y'all a hand. It's better y'all not get struck.
And here's one more insight, and I'm gonna leave it alone because I can't help myself. How's it a television can have a remote? I hit the remote and it goes through and scan every channel from an antenna on its own. You're telling me nobody can create an app, or nobody wants to create an app that goes through and scan your network and secure that network with basic principles? Nope, nobody has this. It's no smart people in the world. All we can do is melt plastic.
I don't know. I mean, maybe you have an app, Ed.
I'm saying, if it's that easy for a thing that was created hundreds of years ago, why has nobody made this to where out of the box it knows blah blah blah? Set up VP. Well, we do have next gen firewalls.
Oh yeah, I know. Believe me, Ubiquity's got the new ones out there.
Yeah. So I'm not saying that they should do that. I'm just saying maybe you should have a basic configuration and somebody has to dig in there and make it unsafe.
Right.
Just a basic configuration that's secure. And then from there, you do whatever. We can't protect everything. Okay, maybe it's a legal issue. I don't know. Could be.
I mean, I think that there's definitely legal issues. I think you bring up a good point when you're talking about, if someone's selling, if I'm, one of the big names saying, hey, buy my printer, and I'm saying, oh yeah, go ahead and connect to this, like get this all connected, and you get your data stolen or your identity taken, whatever the case. Like, yeah, I think that there would be a case made for that, and it would probably gain some bit of traction. Mm-hmm. On the other side of things, I think that you're absolutely right that the user needs to educate themselves as well and needs to prepare themselves. My thing is, my other kind of monkey wrench I throw in there is for what about the people who are like the developers of Voron or the developers of these like outsourced
like VZBot.
Yeah, like where they're like, here's a bill of materials, you go buy the parts, you go set the stuff up. Do you think that now the responsibility lies on those developers?
So who's ever making the board? Who's ever making the main board? I don't care about the plastic because the plastic is not doing the communication.
Okay.
The communication is via the main board.
The MCU, yeah.
Mm-hmm. The main board manufacturers, whether that's Prusa, give it out to somebody or Ender, not picking on nobody.
Yeah.
I'm saying, if we're saying that we are the innovators, we are the leaders, we're the ones pushing this technology, we want to put one in every person's hand, well, you better secure it. Mm-hmm. How many cars you go to that have Wi-Fi in them unsecure now? A lot of them, the majority of them. Mm-hmm. It doesn't take 30 seconds to compromise a Wi-Fi system. Why is that?
Because it was put in there to make money.
They added the capability to have it without thinking about security.
Yeah,
that's the reason.
They could put it in
on my truck, for example, I have Wi-Fi on board, and the thing I'll say this about how Chevy does it is Chevy won't let you move that vehicle when you first buy Wi-Fi and Wi-Fi install without putting a password and username to it. You won't even activate it until the basic security set is done.
But
vehicle.
That's all I'm saying. Change the default to something that's not the
password
default.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, but I'm saying,
I mean, people are gonna do it anyways.
Yeah, true.
But
don't
I
do
believe
1, 2, 3 pound.
For
don't do that.
Because we're getting into something else. I was going to say it real quick. I do believe in the future, if we do not add protection or roadblocks for people, then you're never going to secure any network.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that should not be viable.
And I think the risk that there is to the to the community as far as the additive manufacturing community is no one's talking about it.
No.
The thing is, your biggest risk to any type of event when you talk about cybersecurity is the fact that no one talks about it. I could tell you that the only conversations that we had at Rapid was when we'd initiate the conversation about cybersecurity, and it would end pretty quickly because people don't want to talk about it. Yeah. It's one of those things of where I implore people these days to actually talk about that type of stuff. Because right now, that is your biggest risk. If you don't take the time to have a conversation about it, like we're having now, we're just throwing ideas out there. But the thing is everybody's learning something new, And the thing is, if you don't take the time to actually have the conversations, to bring the conversation to the forefront, why is anybody willing to make the change? There's not, and this is the other reason why I see this is there's also no governing body. Inside the AM space that says, hey, guess what? Let's open this dialogue with all these manufacturers and say, hey, let's talk about this. Let's talk about cybersecurity. How can we all get together and create a standard? Like, for example, you have the NIST standard. You also have the IEE standard. Why can't there be an AM, standard as far as for like NIST, type of stuff? Because NIST doesn't cover additive manufacturing at all. Not inside of its framework.
Well, the issue you can probably have is that's probably going to fall close on the FCC.
Right, exactly.
But I will say this. Why do you think a bicycle have brakes? Because when they first built the bike, nobody thought about putting brakes on it. Why do you think a bicycle have a chain guard? Because when they first put it on there, they didn't assume that somebody would
Cut
stick their
foot in
finger in there. Why do you think a bicycle have a kickstand? They never thought that, hey, maybe I have to store this bike somewhere. The problem is no one is thinking about the things you have to add to the printer. Other than, you know what? I got this on my phone. It'd be nice to have it on the printer. Okay, the phone is somewhat protected.
Right.
Somewhat.
Yeah, I think that you're getting towards the point that I would like to make is that, like, so you're absolutely right. You're thinking about the phone is protected. You're sending it to something that's unprotected. Why is nobody building the protection on it? I think that why is no one building a protection or some type of security base with the printer that they're selling? My thing is that if I mean, I don't want to just sit on the capitalist hill, but we definitely you cast your votes with your dollar bills. Like if we're selling, or if hobbyists are buying MK3 Prusas or MK4 Prusas, like by the thousands, and they're buying them as is, that gives Prusa no incentive to make any effort towards that. So I think that one of the pieces is that the consumer also has to kind of say, hey, I would like this. Maybe not say, hey, I'm not going to buy your item until you put it on there, but push it with the maker. And then eventually, there's always forums that you can get those. Creality has a lot of things they reach out to. But then on the other side of things is like, you very much so you vote for things with your dollars. So if you're buying a lot of these printers, then you're telling them, don't change anything.
And the thing is, I had a conversation with Prusa, with the Prusa team, at Rapid, and I brought that same conversation. I said, what about securing this damn place? Mm-hmm. He said, yeah, most of the time these people are taking the Wi-Fi cards out of our printers or asking us to send them a printer without a Wi-Fi card. And so I brought up the question, is that going to be an option later on? I don't know. He wasn't one of the ones that could, make that decision or comment on the decisions going forward. However, the conversations have started, I think.
It's probably his idea. He brought it up in the daily meetings.
Morning stand-up. Like, you put on a combo card.
They didn't agree.
But I go back to this. You're not recreating the protections.
Yeah.
This is not something that's nosebleed. If Prusa is using 50-year-old economic models, then Prusa might not be around in 5 years.
Yeah.
So Prusa, I'm assuming, is using some type of data analytics, or they should be, to forecast what will happen in the future. Mm-hmm. The technology exists already. There is no, I got to develop this. Mm-hmm. It's laziness. Mm-hmm. It's a money grab.
Yeah. And I don't think it's mainly on the Prusa side of the house.
Well, I'm not saying Prusa that way.
I know what you mean.
But they push that they're on the forefront. They're on the cusp. We do blah, blah, blah.
I know. And
Ender 2, Creality 2.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, Bamboo, you shame on you if you get one and hook up to their cloud. You ask for it. You know who own it. So it's your problem.
The thing is now we go back to the Creality K1.
Yeah.
From,
I'm just saying.
And you're back on the call, you're back on the call, you're back on the cloud again.
Yeah, back on the cloud. I'm just saying, Ed's line of defense, we got to make a shirt off of this. Do you unplug it from the network?
Yeah. Just unplug it.
I might have to create that shirt and upload it to our store.
Yeah. It's like, you want it to be secure? Well, you better unplug it.
Yep. It's like the basic IT rule. Did you reboot it?
But we don't want to scare people away.
Now, we're now in additive manufacturing. Did you level it?
The whole purpose of this particular episode and this podcast was just to inform people. Right. I believe, if nothing else, all of the additive manufacturers that are targeting the consumer market are what we call hobbyists in the additive manufacturing environment. Yeah. You should at least do some type of educational thing. Yeah. Start a YouTube episode where you go through how to secure. Yeah. That's a minimum of what you can do.
Mm-hmm. It'd be a hard time.
Open some workshops for free for people to come in. When you're at these conventions, do that. Show. You don't have to go full scale. I understand it costs money to do these things, but it costs you nothing to have a digital footprint and be a responsible person.
Yeah.
Or company. Mm-hmm. If at the end of the day, that's who we're trying to be responsible people. Now, if we're just going to be capitalists, then, okay, well then, The people are going to have to fix it themselves. And then after everybody fix it and make these add-ons, then you guys can jump on and say, hey, well, we did security too.
We remake it.
Right. Well, all they did was charge you money for it. That's all that was.
You just got to take their icon off, put yours on, and then, double the price.
Basic Chinese manufacturer.
But no, what Ed's saying is like is very much so true. Is like we're not trying to scare you from getting a printer. We actually want you to get a printer. We're just saying that if you actively are not thinking about how your device connecting to your network is going to affect you, then you probably have a lot more unsecured devices in your network.
Yeah.
You should probably reevaluate your whole network if you're fine with this stuff.
Yeah, those are some of those type of people, and I know some of y'all are out there. Believe me, are running around with the Wi-Fi slogan on their house, or that that says
please have a password
that says FBI
surveillance
van.
Oh yeah, that's the one I want right there.
Yeah, click here for viruses. Like I know,
and it says unsecured.
Yeah.
And it's like, come on, guys. Or the password's like 1234.
Yeah.
Pound. So you need a special character.
Yeah.
Maybe like an uppercase P because you need a something.
You should make a passphrase. That's what it should be a whole sentence.
I mean,
I'm just gonna be honest.
I honestly believe until
Please
the day
don't do past paragraphs.
Until the day we get rid of passwords, which means we're at the mercy of idiots.
Well, a lot of things have gone to the the thumbprint and stuff like that. But
but I mean, I say when I
Burn
say
my
that,
fingers. What do I do now?
we
you're screwed. You're toast.
and we probably need to get close to wrapping up.
Yeah, right.
Because we
about to get on rabbit. I'm just saying, in general, we're not good at being. We're repeatable. That's the problem with humans.
Creatures.
As much as we try to be random, we can't be. When it comes to creating some type of code, there's a method to it, and once the method the cipher is figured out, then it's over with.
I agree, and I think Ed mentioned it. We're getting kind of towards the end, and I think we've kind of hit that point where we're starting to get where we could be getting another episode later. So we can go ahead and kind of draw it to the end, and I just want to say thank you, every person out there who's listened to us, who's followed us this far. I know some of y'all have been there from day one. Hell, listen to us now. I thank you.
When we was rambling on.
Oh boy, y'all listen to a lot of randomness.
We ain't stopped rambling.
Oh, at the beginning.
No, at the beginning it was worse.
It was worse. Yeah.
You listen to a lot of adult beverages being opened in the background. Y'all were there for all of that. We thank you. Every single one of you. We thank you. We appreciate you. Make sure you figure out what your risks are inside your environment for security. And, we hope that y'all have a good one. And, I'll turn it over to everybody else. We thank you, and we'll see y'all later.
I just appreciate the support, guys, and we love giving you information.
Yeah. So, like they both said, if you haven't evaluated it, you should probably check your own network. Please make sure you're secure. You've got firewalls, all those things that you should make sure are turned on. Protect your information because your information is probably tied to your family's information. And if you're the reason that someone related to you's identity gets taken, it's not a good feeling. So, but yeah, I also echo these guys. I appreciate it. Keep listening. Stay tuned. We've got a lot more content coming out, but. Once again, we're always very grateful. Thanks, guys.
All right, y'all. Have a good one.
That's all for this episode of Tech at Lunch. Thanks for tuning in and joining us for this tech-filled lunch break. We hope you enjoy the show, and don't forget to subscribe on all channels. And also, you can find us on YouTube under Vulcanar Technology Solutions. And join us for our next episode, which gets published every Wednesday at 8 a.m. All right, y'all. Have a good one. See you later.